I doubt you've had time to watch or listen to this episode, but over the weekend or early this week, I watched. This is since I watched the episode. It's this news has hit the mainstream news in a big way. So Robert Llewellyn recorded a podcast episode, the second episode he's done with the Ford CEO Jim Farley, and there was two really interesting points that he made. One of them was that he daily drives a Xiaomi SU7 and loves it.
Yeah.
So that yesterday hit the mainstream Chinese news. It hit every single big outlet you could think of. It is hit. So they shipped it over from China for him, and he's been driving it for 6 months, and he doesn't want to give it back. Which he said it's incredibly impressive. Which is just for a CEO of a major brand. That's just insane for something for him to say.
Yeah, that's a quite a bold admission, isn't it?
Yeah. And the second point was that Ford are secretly working on brand new, groundbreaking EVs. They've got a Skunk Works operation in California that even he doesn't have access to. Which, and they said they're working hard to compete with the EVs that are coming out of China. So there's a link in the description and the show notes to watch that episode. But I thought that Robert did a really good job of just letting Jim just talk. So it's quite good.
So I did a video about something Jim Farley said recently, and it was basically that Ford are not going to make boring cars anymore. And you could read between the lines of that to say Ford are now going to make very expensive cars, which seemed to be the point he was kind of making, which is along the lines of we can't compete with the Chinese, so we'll just do something different.
Yep.
And whilst I totally understand that from a pure kind of bottom line perspective, you have to remember that Ford is an everyman brand. And I think probably in his position in the US, perhaps it's easy to forget that the US market for Ford is incredibly different to the UK and EU market for Ford, where Ford has been built on Fiestas and Focus and those kind of little vehicles that are, were relatively cheap to get into. So I think it could be a really tough transition for Ford. The Skunk Works thing is interesting. Maybe that is going to be something completely bold and new and utterly different, and that will change the game a bit. But in recent years, Ford have gone to this kind of one world approach where the whole world gets the same models, and it hasn't worked for them here. I don't think at all. I think the new Explorer looks like a good car that will probably sell well. And aside from that, I haven't seen anything from them as an EV that's been particularly mind-boggling or even that competitive, if we're being completely honest.
No.
So I think they've got a ton of work to do. But the fact that he's driving around in a Xiaomi and saying, this is fantastic, and he's taking that much of an interest in it.
Oh, yeah.
I think shows a real determination to compete. And he's probably as aware as everyone else that they're not at the moment.